Hello and welcome to the Fix Your Fatigue podcast. Whether you can't get out of bed in the morning, your energy crashes throughout the day, or you're a biohacker looking to optimize your energy, productivity, and focus, this podcast is for you. I am Dr. Evan Hirsch, and I will be your host on your journey to resolving fatigue and optimizing your energy. And we'll be interviewing some of the top leaders in the world on fatigue resolution. Welcome. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fix Your Fatigue podcast. I'm so excited that you're here with me today because today we're going to be talking about something that's very, very near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about breath work or pranayama, and we're going to be doing it with my friend Debi. So let's learn a little bit about Debi and who she is. So she is a certified yoga therapist and health coach. Her passion is living and teaching bioharmonizing, and we're going to learn about what that is, to release stress and pressure and find balance in the body and mind. Managing our stress will stop the breakdown that leads to fatigue, pain, and suffering. At 51, Debi had a total hip replacement and understands what it feels like to be handicapped, sad, and tired. She shares how she found balance and got her life and health back to help others do the same. She teaches weekly on Zoom and live classes on YouTube Live, and she has ongoing courses and hosts quarterly webinars. Debi, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
So let's talk about bioharmonizing. What does that mean?
Well, the word came to me because the word biohacking seems so harsh. And every time I heard that word, something in my gut just sounded a little bit like piecemeal or attacking or not thinking about the harmony that exists in all of us and the control to actually find balance that leads to harmony. And so I thought, I'm not biohacking my health. I'm not biohacking my aging. I'm actually harmonizing to find that health and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it came about for me.
I love that. That's so important. And so part of the reason why I wanted you on today is because back in 2004, I did a yoga teacher training and lived at Kripalu in Western Massachusetts for a month, and it changed my life. It was amazing. And one of the things that I learned there, and we know that yoga can be helpful for pretty much everything. And I still have my daily yoga practice, though it's much shorter than it used to be. But one of the things that I love to incorporate into some of my programs that I know is really powerful is pranayama or breath work. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and maybe how it fits into yoga?
Yes. So yoga, first of all, yoga is when we connect the mind, the body, and the soul. And pranayama is one of the steps of yoga. In most of the yoga we practice here in the West, it comes from the Yoga Sutras. And the Yoga Sutras have an 8-step approach to become liberated from suffering, because the goal of yoga is to liberate from suffering. So in that case, pain, fatigue, whatever. And so one of the steps is pranayama. And what one of my teachers explained to me is that yoga is about balancing our energy in general, and pranayama is to balance the energy of the mind. And it comes right after the physical aspect of the practice, which is the asana, the postures and the poses. So, yeah.
Excellent. That's great. And so, and you really can't do asana, you can't do the postures without doing some sort of pranayama, right?
Well, I don't get caught up in the supposed to, because if we're looking at traditional yoga, most of us don't practice traditionally. You have to wake up in the morning. There's a set of kriyas, which are cleansing routines you do to cleanse your vessel, because we are wind instruments, right? So for our song and voice to be heard, for us to show up as we are, we need to be cleansed. So you go through these steps of cleansing, and there's the morning practice. Breath work is cleansing the energetic, in the traditional sense, in the terminology that's used, some of this Sanskrit terminology. It's to cleanse and clear your energy channels or balance your energy channels. So I don't get caught up in what I'm supposed to do. For me, I practice yoga all day, every day, because the minute I can come to present moment, bring my awareness to, why am I having that thought? Why is this happening? Am I keeping what I live in, my package, strong? So we have this opportunity all day long to practice, and breath work is just one of the most valuable and easily accessible tools for us to practice.
So you're talking about mindfulness, right?
So mindfulness, I would say, is more present moment. Let's come here. And one of those steps, we do sensory withdrawal, right? Because if you're looking, seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, then you're participating. And when you want to go inward, you need to stop participating. So turning down the senses first would be Pratyahara. And then you go into the first stage of meditation, which is concentration, which I would say is mindfulness, bringing yourself present moment and being completely aware of this moment. And then when you start to go deeper and you start to go to that connection of you, small s self to big S self, that's meditation when you go deeper. So that's some of the terminology, that's Sanskrit, and a little explanation of those stages.
So then in that definition, mindfulness is the same as meditation?
No.
Then please clarify.
Okay, then the reason why, well, so I want to watch my P's and Q's, right? So I think that the word mindfulness, mindful, right? Mindfulness is mindful present moment. Meditation is when you're connected to your true energy, your true divine self. And it's when you're not mindful. Mindfulness, I think here in the West, is a much more acceptable term to say to you instead of meditation. Well, that's what my experience has been. So I will say that is a more common term now, and I use it often. And even my teachers in India 4 years ago had more trouble with that word mindfulness. I see them adopting it now because it has become more the common thought. And if that's the word that people use where they stop and they're calm and they're present moment, then yes, mindfulness is meditation.
Gotcha.
Beginning stages, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I learned it a little bit differently. I see mindfulness as being in that present moment, like you talked about, and then then I would say like the meditation. Meditation, you're still being mindful, but it seems like because you can be mindful with breath, which is kind of what I was getting at, where you're paying attention to what's happening and you're just focusing on the breath, no matter what pranayama that you're doing.
Yeah. And, I guess it's the word meditation. It's like, how do you describe really what that is? Because there's the deeper stages of it. And when we're talking about that 8-step approach, the last step is to connect to your divine essence. And so at that stage, you're in a different state. And so then there's all of these states. And so, yes, mindfulness is beginning state and how you actually get to the place where you stop participating in life the way you were at that and come to this present moment.
And the reason why I'm kind of bringing mindfulness into this is because there are some people who are turned off by the word meditation, or they're turned off by the word mindfulness, and they don't realize that they can also have a lot of the same benefits by focusing on the breath. Because sometimes, like for me, I prefer an activity of doing something that allows me some greater focus, that allows me to be mindful. But I don't feel like I don't have the same struggles that I do when I'm meditating. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah. When you can keep the unruly 2-year-old temper tantruming mind of yours busy, like we all do when we have a 2-year-old temper tantruming kid, when you can preoccupy or distract the mind, which is what all the other tools of yoga are. The physical practice grounds the mental energy into the somatic. You've got the tactile aspect of the hand positions that fire up a different part of your brain than where the chronic stress response is. And then you have the breath, which is, I like to say that breath work is like if you were on a horse, for those that ride horses, they bolt, they're prey animals. And so when they are triggered or stimulated, they do what's called bolting. They will run because their legs is their defense system. So to me, pranayama and the tools in yoga is like grabbing the reins, sitting heavy in the seat, wrapping your legs around the animal, and then conveying to him through your body language that everything is okay. So it's a control. It's a way for us to have control. Pranayama, breath work.
That's a great visual. I really want to be on a horse right now. That would be a lot of fun.
Well, I'm scared to death of them. And it's so crazy because I know that I shouldn't convey fear, yet I cannot help it. So that's my own thing. I'm good at a lot, like managing my stress, but when it comes to horses, it's the power of 1,100 pounds of muscle under my body that I just don't know if I could control.
Right. It's pretty intense for sure.
Yeah.
So let's start off with, I guess, yoga. And can we talk about the benefits of yoga in the context of mitigating stress and increasing energy?
Yes. So yoga is management of energy. Yoga, the philosophy of yoga looks at everything as comprised of energy. So we have energy that's either too this, not enough that, or perfect, you know, just like Goldilocks, hot, cold. And so it's trying to find that harmony and that balance. It's trying to find that bioharmonizing place. It's called sattva in Sanskrit, and it's that perfect balanced place. So you are using, if it's mind energy you need to balance, if it's body energy, whatever it is, when something is too much of something, you bring in the opposite, or even the realization in that moment of something being out of balance, and then realizing which tool you need to use. So yoga is about harmony, about finding balance. And the tools of yoga are to bring the balance to wherever it is you need. So there are a lot of tools. And I think that's one of the things I'd love to get across to people and really raise awareness to, is that yoga is lifestyle medicine, because yoga is about your lifestyle and how you live every day, how you show up every day. And then there are many tools that help you find that balance in everything you do. And when you are in that place of balance, that's where you have less pain, less inflammation, less fatigue, and less dis-ease in your body and in your mind.
Excellent.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, that's wonderful. So then those tools that you're referring to with yoga, can you expand on those a little bit? I know of, you know, the actual physical stretching or the movement, the asana, and then I know of the pranayama, but what other tools are you talking about?
So the 8-step approach, it's really amazing, actually. It's called the Yoga Sutras, they're called, and there's an 8-step approach. The first 2 are yamas and niyamas. They're the way we interact with others. So they're the way we show up socially. And then they're what we do with ourselves. So it's self-discipline and social discipline. And what's really interesting about that, the more I learn about this part of the practice, is that you start to be a witness of how you're showing up. And in terms of the yamas, when you're looking at the way you're interacting with other people, and you start to pay attention to yourself and yourself showing up in social situations. And, you know, when it comes to fatigue, whenever you can manage that chronic limbic loop of thoughts that are what is part of what's breaking down the internal energy, whenever you can manage that chronic limbic loop stimulation of what you can see, conscious thought, conscious things, and what you can't see, the subconscious parts of you, the parts of you that are from your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother, your grandmother from the 1st century, like that part of you that's always, do they like me? Why are they looking at me like that? Did I say something? Like that part of you. And so the yamas are, how am I showing up with others? Or how am I going to behave with others? Then the niyamas are myself, the purity of myself and the cleanliness of myself, and discipline to actually practice, to bring this into practice. That's yama niyama. Then you come to asana, which is the physical practice. That's where you keep what you live in. You know, we're wind instruments. Remember, we keep our instrument working. And, you know, one of my main specialties is healthy aging, and I'm in an aging package, and I know what it's like to have it be broken. So we need to keep what we live in functional, mobile, lubricated. So that's the physical practice. And then you come to pranayama, your favorite. And pranayama is where we start to shift. And we go into, that's where we start to take the body and mind. We start to make that connection. So pranayama is actually the connector between body and mind, because we get involved in our mind and we take the reins. That's where we actually come to the prefrontal cortex. We actually get involved in doing something. And the respiratory system is the only system we actually can have control over. So after pranayama, it's called pratyahara. And that is withdrawal of senses. And when you withdraw of senses, it's like paying attention to the noisy football game that's in front of you, or turning around and closing your eyes and plugging your ears. So it's still happening, but you're not participating. And then you won't be reactive to what's taking place, which that reactivity is going to burn through your internal energy. And then you go into the concentration aspects. You go into the meditative aspects.
Brilliant. That was a great summary. So is that considered the Eightfold Path?
Yes.
Or is that, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Well, wait, Eightfold Path. So is that not Buddhism?
Yeah, I misspoke.
Okay. No, it's okay, because I think that's important that you said that, because I even had to question myself, because, how is it written? What is it said? I think that when I hear the word eightfold, I think of a Buddhism, and I don't know a lot about that. But yeah, so 8 steps, Ashtanga, Ash meaning 8, Tanga meaning a ladder or steps. And I think what's really important for me to just say a little bit here is that Sanskrit is a liturgical language. It's meant to be experienced, and understood. So it's very hard to exactly give a definition to the words. The words have like 10 or 15 meanings, and it depends which lineage and where you were that the storyline came through on how you interpret what the words mean. So that's why Tanga, Ashtanga, people call it 8 limb. It could be 8 ladders, 8 steps.
Brilliant. And then the Yoga Sutras, is that a book that can be read? And is that by Patanjali?
It could be read, and it's better to be interpreted by someone that is actually able to really articulate that to us. So I have many interpretations. It's by Patanjali, and it's been interpreted by many. I love the teacher that I study with, Dr. Ananda Bhavanani, and he's got an amazing interpretation, and it's his father's interpretation as well. And then the whole lineage that he comes from, the parampara, which is the lineage of all of the teachers in his lineage.
Brilliant. And so that's great. So I think you just taught more people about yoga than they've ever known in their lives.
Well, that's what I want.
Which is really wonderful, right? It's more than just those movements that you see on TV. It's not pretzel yoga, right? There's like so many different aspects to yoga, which is really important. So let's jump into pranayama and breath work. And why is this so important for health?
Yeah, so prana, another one of those Sanskrit words, kind of hard to really explain what it is. It's your life force energy. So I know this might be a weird example. Did you see Terminator?
Back in the day?
Right.
Yeah.
And so when she finally knew she got him, it's because, and I know this is a harsh one, but when you looked at his face, when the red light that was his eyes was gone, you knew that he was gone, right? So that life force energy that's in us, it's that gives us our life. And so pranayama, to extend life, that's one interpretation, or to lengthen the exhalation or the breath. And it's really our connection. It's our connection. I'll tell you what one of the yoga therapy teachers said. And I won't get this whole quote right, but inhale and God approaches, and then God is in you, right? And then hold your breath to keep God in you, exhale, and you become God. So I know I use the G word, maybe we could put in the conscious word, but it is that is that reciprocal? Would that be a reciprocal relationship if you're like becoming one with something? Right. I don't know. See, trying to figure out how to articulate it without it sounding too woo-woo is always my challenge.
And I'm sure we're limited by the English language anyway, right? There's
there you go.
200 words for love, different kinds of loves in Tibetan, right? And we have like one, so that's really helpful. So then I know that there are some, and just to clarify for folks, I say pranayam because that's how I was taught. Like there's no A, and she says pranayama, so it means the same thing, right?
North and south, South
Okay.
India. You're going to add an A or not. One thing about the words you just said, about 200 in Tibetan, in some of the beautiful, more older cultures in Italy, they say when you inhale, in spirito. You bring the
Mm-hmm.
spirit in on the inhale and you exhale the spirit. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that concept of that life force, that spirit, that consciousness, that God presence, whatever resonates with you, the inhale is to bring it in and to become it and to be it and to be alive. And then the exhale is to be one with it.
Mm-hmm.
So there, sorry, just in spirito. It's just so beautiful to me.
That's great. And I think that there was something that you had said previously about controlling our respirations, where it's kind of like something that we take for granted, but it's something that when we control it can be really powerful, right?
Yeah. And what other body system can we control in the moment? And in controlling our respiration, we can control our cardiovascular system, because the heart rate, we can manage the heart rate. We can also signal to the nervous system that the coast is clear. So now you have the nervous system calm. And when you have that, then all the other systems that respond, the endocrine system with the hormones and blah, 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 the inflammation, the immune system. So it's really we control the respiration system, and then it has a positive domino effect on controlling everything else that we need to control to bring us to the place of harmony, to bring us to the place where we minimize the contributing factors that lead to pain, discomfort, and fatigue.
Brilliant. So then let's talk about how we use pranayama in that way. How can we increase energy? I know I'm going to be curious, and I'm going to want to ask you like for a couple of different techniques that people can potentially take away. And I'm thinking about things like that might be more relaxing techniques and some that might be more stimulating. So let's start with something that's more stimulating that people could potentially do in the morning that would be helpful at increasing their energy in addition to the other benefits that pranayama conveys.
Okay. So the one that we did often in India when I've gone there a couple of times to study yoga therapy. And in between sessions, when we would come back from a break, we did Kapalabhati. Have you heard of Kapalabhati?
Mm-hmm.
And Kapalabhati literally means skull shining. So if you think about skull shining, it's like, wow, that sounds energetic, right? And I know that in some of the traditional teachings, there's certain counterindications, or it needs to be partnered with something. So let's not say that this is super traditional. And what we would do is we do Kapalabhati. So Kapalabhati is you switch the control, the active or the involuntary. So I don't know if you know, like you probably know this, but others might not. The inhale is a muscular voluntary process inside of our body. The exhale happens on its own. It's not muscular, we don't do it. It's a recoiling of the volume pressure of the lungs and of the diaphragm, which is the primary breathing muscle, which is located below the ribs. So it's actually the inhalation. A lot of breath work is done with the inhalation. With Kapalabhati, we're actually controlling the exhale. And so with Kapalabhati, you take your abdominal area. So let's say the area right below the belly button, and you push back and up, back and up. And you actually do it quick. And then of course, whoever's practicing this, just a little disclaimer, you do you, because everyone else is taken. You have to do what's appropriate for you. And if something is directed, do 30 of these for 30 seconds, but it doesn't work for you, then that's not appropriate for you. Right? So you have to take the right dosage of anything that's right for you. So the action is below the belly button, the navel presses back towards the spine and up and towards underneath the rib cage. So, and there's a sniffing action. So the mouth is closed and the exhale takes place through the nostrils. And you have to really prepare yourself. So when I'm teaching this, I'll have people clear their nostrils, because traditionally, remember, there would have been a set of cleansing practices that took place before we did our Kapalabhati. We would have done neti pot or something to cleanse our nasal pathways. We wouldn't have mucus buildup or anything. It wouldn't be midday, or it would have been when we were cleansed. So Kapalabhati is lower abdominal area, push back and up. And it's like this, it's like, so you do an active exhale, pushing back in and up, and a passive inhale. So it's switching the natural rhythm of the breath. So when we did this, we would do, and they're really into numbers, and we would do 108 when we came back from a break, and we would do 36, 36, and 36. We would also do different hand positions, and there is a visual part of this podcast, right? And I will try to explain a little bit for those that aren't watching. So the first hand position would be hands are clasped, and you place your hands straight in front of you. Palms are facing away from you. So this would be your first hand position, and you do 36. We're not going to do all of them here. Then you would raise your hands to about maybe nose height and do your, or maybe a little higher, eye height. And then the last one would be overhead. And what that does, the different hand positions actually gives more space in the lungs. When you raise your arms overhead, the position of the upper arm bones takes the shoulder blades onto the back of the body. When the shoulder blades are on the back of the body, they become very supportive of the chest cavity, and they actually allow for more opening and for more oxygenation in the upper lobes of the lungs. And so the hand positions help to oxygenate the lungs deeper. And you do that, you're going to actually be involved. And when you're so involved in all of what you're doing, you are not in the place of burning through your internal gas and your internal energy. You're not in the limbic loop. You're not in that chronic catabolic breakdown in the body. You are present moment, firing up parts of your brain in a different center that doesn't use the internal energy, and actually has the opposite. It's the putting gas back in the car versus taking the gas out of the car, right? Catabolic versus anabolic, breakdown versus building. So that would be the Kapalabhati I would recommend. Could be the for getting your energy up. And I do that now. Ever since I learned that in India, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a little fatigued here, and I'll be and you know, the younger crowd, the more, I don't know, I don't want to say the more healthy, but just depending on what state you're in, you can do it quickly. But if you're older, if you have issues with dizziness, and if you've got something going on, yours might be, and just as long as you're being really active in the belly area.
Perfect. That was brilliant. I'm a big fan of Kapalabhati. We used to do alternate nostril as well. This is great. Yeah. So those of you at home, just go start low and go slow. You know, I definitely recommend that you try this. I think it can be very beneficial, but start low and go slow. And if you don't feel good, then take a break. So let's talk about something that's relaxing. That maybe, you know, one of the things that I've spoken to people about is if you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're having a hard time falling back to sleep, maybe some nadi shodhana, maybe you can guide us through that, or something else that you think would be especially helpful, either to help people fall asleep or to help them relax.
Yes. So if we have time for nadi shodhana, I'll do that, because I think of nadi shodhana as balancing our energy. And I'm going to say, for waking up in the middle of the night, I want you to ground your mental energy. I want you to bring your mental energy down, because quite often when we wake up in the middle of the night, we start with the thoughts, right? And when the thoughts happen, that's like the horses are at the gate in the race, and that's opening the gate and then they're off. And when they're off, the body is waking up. And so to ground the mental energy in the middle of the night, I'd like to say that grounding your mental energy into your body, into the somatic, is going from the place of thinking to feeling. And the brain is incapable of being in the centers where it thinks and the centers where it feels. So when you can come into a place of feeling, you're taking the elevator from the brain down into the body. And so what I would recommend, what I do for myself, there's two things. Generally, I either bring my awareness to my physical body on the bed. I feel the heaviness of my limbs, the backs of my heels, the backs of my legs, my tushy, my back, my arms. So I really increase that somatic awareness, and I'm in that center of my brain that's going to help me go back to sleep. And then if I'm really struggling, I'll actually bring my hands in, because if you look in the brain, there's a part of our brain that has so much neurological dedication to our hands, to our fingers. And this is why a lot of the hand stuff that we do in yoga, they're called mudras. And a lot of the mudras help us fire up that part of the brain. So if you take your hands on your lower ribs, and your lower ribs are higher in the front and then they dip down. So place the entire palm, keep your thumbs right next to your pointer finger. So don't spread your fingers, keep your fingers together. And then place the fingers, the hands, the palms up against your lower ribs, and allow your elbows to relax, okay? And so here, I want you to close your mouth. In yoga, we breathe through the nose, and there's a couple of reasons for that. If you'd like to know, I'll give you a couple of reasons later, but let's do this for now. You could let your middle finger touch here, your fingers touch. What I'd like you to do is, it's better if you close your eyes, because the eyes stimulate, the optic nerve stimulates the brain with about 80% of its input. So the minute we close our eyes, we actually take away that stimulation. So close our eyes, close your eyes. Close your eyes and bring your awareness, breathe to your palms. So feel your palms moving, breathing down to the palms, feeling the palms move as your lower ribs press into your palms. Mouth is closed, you're breathing in and out through your nose. And then keep the eyes closed. Slide your hands down the rib cage. You're still on the lower ribs, to the side of your body. Palms are on the side of the body. And take a couple of breaths there, really directing and guiding the breath to the palms. Try to feel the body moving into that left palm, the fingers, the thumb, and the same thing on the other side. Feel that expansion and contraction of your body when you breathe. And then take one more breath like this. Keep your eyes closed. Bring your hands together. Rub your hands together really strong. So rub, 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 so you feel heat generating in your hands. Feel that heat be in your palms right now. And then bring your hands to cover your eyes. And then go ahead and gently blink your eyes open. And put your hands down. And then just go to the place, just feel right now. Even, I don't even know how many minutes that was. It wasn't a very long process. I know for me, guiding, because I actually directed myself to the place that I'm guiding you, I can feel the calm that's come over me. And so I don't know if you're experiencing that. But at night, I do that often. And if you can't get around to the sides because you're on your bed, here or lower on the belly, and breathing to your palms so that you're really a part of that. And it works every time. And if I start to think if something's gonna, no, come right back here, where's my body? Feel it. So that could be done in bed at night, because that's the example you gave me. But I also do that. Well, I did that before our podcast. I did that to ground my mental energy so that I would show up in a calm, I would be able to go into my brain to the places where I know things, as opposed to being in the stress zone where you can't always recall what you know.
Mm-hmm. That was wonderful.
And there is a name. So this is Vibhagra Pranayama. When you do lower lobular breathing, the intention is to breathe down to the lower lungs. And actually there's more parasympathetic nervous system receptors there, and even oxygen exchange. The alveoli, there's more in this region of the lungs. So really, when you can get the diaphragm to be active and feel it with your hands, you're very connected. So that could be very, very calming wherever you are.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely see that. And you bring up a very good point. A lot of what we do in our program, a lot of fatigue resolution has to do with getting you back into your parasympathetic. And this is just another way, another amazing tool that you have that's free at your disposal. Set alarms on your phone if you're not going to think of them, right? That is going to help get you out of that sympathetic fight or flight freeze state and into that parasympathetic. And oftentimes people will say, well, take some deep breaths. Well, what are you doing when you're doing that, right? You're putting yourself into your parasympathetic, and this is enabling you, this is building it in a different way, in a tradition that's, I don't want to say as old as time, but it's probably not that old, but it's pretty darn old.
Yeah. Evan, really, you know what this is? It gives you control. And when you're in pain and when you're tired and when you're suffering and you're struggling, when you're in bed at night, when you can't sleep, you need to have control over every aspect of yourself, how happy you are, how healthy you are, how important it is to sleep, and you need to, and at that moment, you know you need to. So really, to me, pranayama teaches us, and the more you practice it, it's your control. It's what empowers you to know that self-healing is in your hands. And that's really important, is the taking care of ourselves and self-healing. And then that inner healing quality that exists in every one of us, it's beyond tremendous. I don't know what the word is for, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious tremendous, whatever it is. It's like that healing capability, regardless of where you are in your journey of pain, of suffering, of disease, anything. There's that healing potential to get out of that. And pranayama is one of the major tools to give you control.
Mm-hmm. I love it. One of my favorite words in Hindi means that, which is bahut, right? Bahut acha, very good. Or bahut, you put it in front of any word and it means a whole bunch. It's the supercalifragilistic word.
Yeah.
So Debi, this has been really amazing. This is exactly what I was hoping that we would be able to convey to our audience. So for those of you out there who are interested in going deeper into this work, Debi, where can they learn more about you and potentially work with you?
So I have a website. My name is Debi Robinson. That's my website. I spelled Debi, D-E-B-I, Robinson. So that's my www. Debi Robinson. And I have workshops and I work privately with people. I teach live classes weekly. I teach courses quarterly, and I'm guesting on a lot of podcasts, and I'm in the process of creating my own. So I'm getting out there, and I'm out there.
Excellent. And we'll put all those links in the show notes for everybody. Debi, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I hope you learned something on today's podcast. If you did, please share it with your friends and family and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's really helpful for getting this information out to more fatigued people who desperately need it. Sharing all the experts I know and love and the powerful tips I have on fatigue is one of my absolute favorite things to do. If you'd like more information, please sign up for my newsletter, where I share all important facts and information about fatigue, from the foods and supplements to the programs and products that I use personally and recommend to others so that they can live their best lives. Just go to fixyourfatigue.com/newsletter to sign up, and I will send you this great information. Thanks for being part of my community. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. It is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you're looking for help with your fatigue, you can visit my website and work with us at fixyourfatigue.com. And remember, it's important that you have someone in your corner who is a credentialed healthcare professional to help you make changes. This is very important, especially when it comes to your health. Thanks for listening, and have an amazing day.